but otherwise, gold only has short term reaction to geopolitical events. But as I said, it's the money supply that really determines where gold is going. So, that's why I don't really care at all about what the Fed is going to do tonight, or if it's going to be another bomb in the Middle East. Because, as I said, it's the consequences of that action. The consequences will be, it will lead to more money printing. The war is costing an absolute fortune. The U.S. now sending 100 million, they're 100 or billions and billions. Well, I don't know what they sent to America so far, 200 billion, to Ukraine, a few hundred billion, etc., or more. And nobody asks where's the money coming from. Well, there is no money. It doesn't coming from anywhere. It's coming from just from the air. They pluck it out of the air and call it money.
Welcome back to Capital Cosmo, everybody. Today we've got the legendary Egon Von Greyerz on the show. Egon, thank you so much for coming on.
Danny, very good to speak to you. Look forward to our talk.
Likewise. Well, Egon, it is your maiden voyage on the show, so I'd like to open the floor to you to introduce yourself. Who are you? What got you into gold and silver investing? And tell us a little bit about yourself for those who may not know.
Okay, it's a long story because I've lived a long time. So, I'm Swiss and Swedish. I'm born in Sweden, but an old Swiss family. I started in banking in Switzerland and then went into corporate life in the UK and a retail company that built up to the biggest consumer electronic company in the UK, Dixon's, during my days there. That was 17 years. I was vice chairman. And then basically I decided that I was still quite young then. I decided that I would stop corporate life and start my own investment business in the 1990s. And then studying markets, I was quite clear that risk was very elevated, and I saw the dot-com boom and bust. I was involved with an actually internet company at the time and I told my partner, who was the founder of that, we're going to sell, and the companies at that point were selling at 10 times sales. But no profit. And to me, who I really, my hobby, if you want to, or my keen interest in understanding risk and protecting against risk, protecting against the downside. So to me, that was very clear. So we managed to sell the company to a Nasdaq company and based in Hong Kong. And then, of course, that company, like all the others, went bust. But that was so clear to me, that bubble, and we're coming into the same bubble here now in most markets, stocks, bonds, property, etc. Therefore, we are going to see a similar type of crash, I'm sure, in the next few years. So anyway, from that position, I decided that we're going to have some tough times in coming years and maybe even decades. And wealth preservation would be critical. We set up a system for ourselves. So buy gold, store it outside the banking system, directly in our names, etc. I did that for us, our family, and a few families that we advised at the time. So we bought basically gold at $300 in 2002, in a big way. We went into gold. So, and of course, we never looked back, and we only bought more. And then people wanted our help. So we weren't intending to have it as an open company for other people. But anyway, we opened it up, and we have now investors in 90 countries from all over the world, high net worth individuals. Our minimum in some of our vaults is $400,000 to Swiss francs. And in our mountain vault, which is the biggest and safest gold vault in the world, it's 5 million. So we're dealing with big investors here. And it's a passion for us. And we think we're a big business, but we've just started in our view, because what we have been seeing is now the world hasn't discovered it yet, since there is only 0.5% of world financial assets in gold today. And that's going to change in the next few years. So that's a very brief resume on the background, and so we have a good team of people that are going to take this business forward for hopefully another 5,000 years or so, just for the same period as gold has been around as money. And I will look down every now and then and see how it goes. But I think gold is not going to disappear. It's been money for 5,000 years, and it's nature's money, so therefore it's unlikely to change.
Yeah, yeah. You mentioned a 0.5% allocation to gold financially worldwide. What was the historic percent allocation throughout, let's say, prior to the 90s, prior to the 80s? Do you think it will retrace back to those levels?
Well, it's been much higher, but in 1980 it was 5%, for example. 5% is 10 times current investment. All right, you must not look at what financial or gold, what part of gold is financial assets. Obviously it's an equation where if the stock market comes down, also the other assets changes in values that influences the ratio. But nevertheless, it's been much higher, and there have been times there have been 20% in history. So gold is now unloved and undervalued, just as it was in 2002 when we went into gold heavily. That's why we did it. To buy, when you buy go into an investment, you buy when it's unloved and undervalued, and it's still today. The amount of money printing and growth in money supply that we've seen since 2002, and gold was $300, is so massive, so base against money supply is still cheap today, and basically the same value as it was in 2002 at $300. So therefore, gold is very cheap today. Anybody who waits to buy now because they hope the price is going to come down, they're making a mistake. And anyway, you shouldn't buy gold on price. You should buy for wealth preservation purposes, not worry about the short-term timing of it, because gold is likely to go up by multiples from here.
Yeah, is it an artifact of what is it, like 3-decade long era of a rate cutting cycle here in the United States that's driven the price of gold down? What's made it so cheap throughout history, and why do you think it won't be as cheap moving forward?
Well, of course, we have. The 1971 was an important date since that was when Nixon closed the gold window. Until then, gold was backing the dollar on there for every currency in the world, basically, at fixed parities, and that disappeared. And then when that gold window was taken or closed, and the gold support for currencies was taken away, it's been a bonanza of money printing of unprecedented proportions. And that's why, measured in real terms, every single currency has gone down 98 to 99% since 71. And in real terms is measured against gold. Gold is the only measure that you can use, because gold is stable purchasing power. An ounce of gold is worth the same when it comes to buying a man's suit, for example, today as it was 2,000 years ago. And that's why gold is very important. But today, and for the last few decades, when we've had a bonanza in paper assets, nobody's been interested in gold. And therefore, it went up between 71 and 1980 from 30 $5 or $32 an ounce to $850 an ounce, and then we had a long period of correction from $850 down to just under 300, and that's when we went in and bought. But that's still, we're in an uptrend since 71. There was a long correction because paper assets and because of credit expansion were growing rapidly, and still have been now. And that's why this is a bubble. And it's a bubble in money. It's a bubble in derivatives. It's a bubble in debt. And at some point, this bubble is going to burst. I don't think it's far away, but I've learned one thing, that to make predictions of timing, and that's a mug's game. So I don't worry about that. It's really what we're looking at is risk. Risk is very high now. Risk is high when you're in the stock market. Risk is even much higher when you're in tech stocks, just like in 99. Risk is high in the property market. Risk is high in the bond market. And the interest rates, in my view, whatever the Fed does today, it's possible that at one point they will have a minor reduction in rates. Rates are not going to go down. There's a trend changed. There was rates went down from 1980, 81 to 2021, 22 for 40 years. Rates are now starting a long-term uptrend, and then uptrends are never straight, so there'll be corrections, but the trend is up. There's going to be massive demand for money because everybody is running a deficit. Everybody needs to print more money, therefore, and there'll be inflation on top of that. So therefore, interest rates are going up, and gold thrives also. Gold, you can't link gold to interest rates. Sometimes it goes up with interest rates, but sometimes it goes down with interest rates. Right now, we're in a period where that gold goes up regardless. But and I think, as I said, we are in a major uptrend now for gold for a long time to come, in my view.
Yeah, so we are recording this show on Fed Day, just FYI to the audience. And you mentioned to me off camera that you're really not concerned what the Fed does. Explain to the people, why, maybe obviously there is an impact on the gold price depending upon what the Fed does, but in the grand scheme of things, people give it way too much weight, more weight than it's than is appropriate. Explain, why you don't really hone in on these events. You kind of zoom out and look long term.
Well, if you're a short-term trader and running massively leveraged positions, of course you worry about every Fed day and every single economic data. In my days, in the 1970s, it was money supply came out. First, it was on a Thursday evening and then on a Friday evening, and everybody looked at money supply. No one looks at money supply today because it's growing so much that people become immune to it, basically. And that's really what people should focus on, because that's what's destroying the currencies. That's what, and that's which means the money in your pocket, and that's what's destroying the economy. Because governments are undisciplined in running a tight economy and a tight budget. So, the one thing you learn, as I said, after quite a long experience in life, and especially of markets, that if you are a medium to long-term investor, these short-term figures only have a very short-term effect. So to worry about what the Fed is going to do today makes no difference. I mean, I can tell you whatever they do over the next 5 years or 10 years, 5 to 10 years, stock markets are going to be massively down from today. Bond markets are going to be massively down. That means interest rates are higher. Property markets, which is a big bubble and leverage, are going to be massively down. And the precious metals that really only measure the destruction of paper money, they are going to be up by multiples, and also for other reasons, not just for the fact that money is going to be continuously destroyed, but also that there is a fundamental shift now in the world. People haven't discovered gold yet. That's why it's only 0.5%. Banks and investment managers, wealth managers, etc., they're making so much money out of churning commission and buying and selling stocks. So gold has been no interest to them. Nobody wants to buy gold and stick it in the vault, or if many buy, of course, GLD or whatever, an ETF gold, which is ridiculous because that's nothing to do with wealth preservation. That's within the financial system and very risky, especially since I expect real problems in the financial system. So, you buy gold physical and store it outside the banking system. So gold is now going to reflect A, the continued destruction of currencies, but B, there will be a shift also, fundamental shift, first from the central banks that until now have held their reserves in dollars, Now, why should you hold your reserves in the currency that is declining by the day? And also, why should you hold your reserves in the currency where the country now attacks other countries and confiscates dollar holdings, like Russia, for example, for war reasons or whatever? Why would you hold your reserves with a country that can take it away from you at any point in time? So, if they don't like Russia now, tomorrow they might not like Germany or whatever. So what is happening now, and this is why we're seeing this shift. It's a slow shift, but it's happening into gold by central banks and out of U.S. treasuries. We've seen the statistics, we've seen the graphs, how central banks are buying more gold and they are selling treasuries. Now, when I say central banks, no Western bank, of course, they haven't woken up to the fact yet. These are Eastern central banks, Southern central banks, Middle East central banks, etc. Not yet Western central banks. They will, but they haven't really. And so we're going to see central banks putting their reserves into gold and obviously store it at home and not in a U.S. bank somewhere. So and of course, that shift will mean major amounts of dollars moving into gold. And, as even, Bill Halter, I think, said in the interview with you, of course, there isn't enough gold to satisfy this at today's prices. So therefore, there has to be a substantial revaluation of gold. Central banks are not stupid. They don't rush into the market and buy what they need. They do it gradually. And that's the best way also. You don't want any sudden spikes. So they're going to continue to buy mainly off market also, so people don't see it happening even. Because the 3,000 tons that is being produced by the mines of gold every year, it doesn't grow really. It grows by maybe 1 or 2% per year maximum. Those 3,000 tons are already being taken up now by investors. So the increased demand, there isn't enough gold at today's prices. Just China last year took something like 15 to 1,700 tons of gold. And then central banks, another 1,500 to 1,700 tons. So you've got 3,000 tons just between those two, never mind investment demand that's going to come from institutions, from individuals, etc., and the increased demand from central banks. So all of that can only be satisfied by a higher gold price, not by more gold being produced. And that's why in the next X years, whether that's 5 years or 10 years, gold is going to be gradually revalued by multiples from today. I'm not a gold bull. I'm just someone who understands risks and understands how to protect against risk. And I understand supply and demand also. I know that the paper markets have to try to disguise the fact that supply and demand, the laws of nature don't work, and they can print unlimited amounts of money without destroying the financial markets. But they can't. And as I said, supply and demand will make it inevitable that gold goes up by multiples because of all of these investors that will now invest in gold. So it's an interesting period, and people who don't protect themselves. I mean, I could see, for example, the Dow Jones or the S&P 500 go down by 95% against gold in the next few years, or whatever that is. Could be 5, could be 10, it can be quicker than we think. Also, no use forecasting the timing. Just worry about the risk. And that's not a sensational figure. If you look at the Dow gold ratio and chart it, it was down to 1-for-1 in 1980. That was $850 for 1 ounce of gold and 850 Dow. So 1-for-1, that ratio, Dow divided by gold price. Now it's 17 or 18, whatever it is. I think that the trend line shows that it's going to go at least back to 1 for 1, but probably half for 1. That's what the long-term trend line tells you. So that means maybe 20,000 gold and 10,000 Dow, for example, as an example. It's probably going to go a lot wider than that, but that's really what we are going to see: a massive shift from paper assets to natural resources, or in this case, to real money, into gold. And so there'll be a major transfer of wealth. There'll be a major wealth distraction for a lot of people that have had it too easy, but by money printing, pushing all assets up to ridiculous values. So a lot of people are going to suffer in the next few years. It's going to be very difficult times, and we haven't even talked about the geopolitical side.
Yeah. I mean, just really quick, I'm 100% with you there on your sentiment behind timing markets. The way I kind of view it is, if someone offers you a Lamborghini for $40,000, you're not going to say, well, maybe I can haggle it down to $30,000. Well, it's $40,000. If it's cheap, then you buy. If it's expensive, then you sell. I mean, very simple. It's a very reductionist way of looking at things, but I think people often get a little carried away with every little piece of minutia out there. So you brought it up, the geopolitical side of things. You do have these Eastern central banks buying up gold and silver, not silver, but it's just gold. What's kind of like your overall view on the geopolitical side of things? Just recently, we had a number of attacks yesterday. One in Lebanon, another in Tehran, and the price of gold just spiked. I think $60+ within the course of 24 hours. Is this what's your take on all of these events and their impact on the precious metals market?
Yes, to be honest with you, I don't see them as important. What really determines the gold price in the long run is the money supply, the amount of the money, the destruction of paper money. Remember, we've decided, or we've chosen, or the world has chosen to value all assets in dollars or other currencies, which is really ridiculous because everything looks better than it is. You value your what you're worth, or your shares, or your gold, whatever it is, or your house, in a currency that goes down by the day, whether it's the dollar or the pound, the yen, the euro. It serves no purpose. It would be better to value them in chickens or cows or bushels or whatever it is, something that with a more stable value. So we're kidding ourselves by valuing it in a currency that is going down constantly. Sorry, what was your point that you were asking me?
No, just your overall take on the geopolitical side of things.
Yeah, geopolitical. Right, yeah, come back. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So coming back, well, the geopolitical. So as I said, gold does only react short term to geopolitical events if we don't have a nuclear war, but then we don't have to worry anyway because we won't be there, most probably. But otherwise, gold only has short term reaction to geopolitical events. But as I said, it's the money supply that really determines where gold is going. So, that's why I don't really care at all about what the Fed is going to do tonight. Or if it's going to be another bomb in the Middle East, because, as I said, it's the consequences of that action. The consequences will be, it will lead to more money printing. The war is costing an absolute fortune. The U.S. now sending 100 million, they're 100 or billions and billions. Well, I don't know what they sent to America so far, 200 billion, or to Ukraine,
mm-hmm.
a few hundred billion, etc., or more. And nobody asks where's the money coming from. Well, there is no money. It isn't coming from anywhere. It's coming from the air. They pluck it out of the air and call it money. It's just printed money coming from a computer. And of course, with the Ukraine, it's even worse because a lot of that money never goes to neither the weapons nor the people. It goes to corruption to a great extent. So geopolitically, there's a war between the U.S. and Russia, in my view, and the Ukraine is just an excuse. I know that a lot of people in the world have, agree with the propaganda that it's the Ukraine which is really the country that should be helped. So that's not the U.S. have no interest in Ukraine except for as a weapon against Russia. And that war is unlikely to stop. Russia is never going to lose against Ukraine, however many weapons the U.S. sends, in my view. And even if NATO starts walking into Ukraine, remember Russia has got some very strong friends. They've got China, they've got Korea, they got Iran. So Russia is unlikely to lose the war, even if it escalates. And everybody knows that if it escalates, it gets out of control, and you're not far from nuclear buttons. And so that's high risk. Nothing we can do about it. And Europe is being destroyed in the middle by agreeing to all the sanctions, etc., which is also Europe is just a little lapdog that the US decides what to do with. I tell them to tell Europe to follow their confiscation or whatever rules they implement. Follow the FATCA rules. I control the banking system, etc. US determines everything. And so far, Europe is weak. I don't think America is going to be strong for very, very long. As I look at long-term cycles always, and we are at the end of the major cycle now. This is what the economy shows us. This is what the political situation shows us. Just look at, there's not a single leader anywhere in the world, in the Western world, who will be re-elected. The UK, the leader was thrown out. US. Well, we really know there's a new leader anyway, because Biden is not going to go for re-election. In Germany, it's the same. In France, it's the same. Everywhere. There isn't a statesman in the world. The world is now having the leaders they deserve, because we are at the end of an era, and there are no statesmen, no real values, and there's an economic and financial and the cultural and the social decadence and downfall. And that sadly will lead to difficult times for a lot of people in the world. I mean, I'm talking about mainly in the West here. The East is also going to have problems. China has major debts that are due to property speculation on a big scale. So China will suffer too, but they will deal with that mainly internally. They're not dependent on outside financing. So China and the BRIC countries, who are also buying gold and going to continue to buy gold, all the countries with natural resources here, they are going to come out much better out of this. And this is an era now. Empires always die, without exception, throughout history, and it always finishes the same way. Finishes with debts, corruption, deficits, migration, and obviously internal strife, external strife, war. So this is no different. Any leader who reads history rather than believe that he can change the destiny of his country, he would understand that this is not reversible at all. It's irreversible, and we are going to see difficult times in the world, and a lot of people are going to suffer. And the fact that we tell people to buy gold for wealth preservation purposes, the ones who have a bit of money, but even if they don't have money to buy gold, they can buy an ounce of silver for $30. And if you do that every month, if the people had done that in Venezuela and Argentina, they would have had a little nest egg that would have saved them. So that's why it's not just for rich people. Everybody can buy half an ounce or a quarter of an ounce, a tenth of an ounce of gold, or an ounce of silver, as I said. And so therefore, everybody can protect themselves. We cannot protect ourselves against the social side, and the geopolitical side, and wars, etc., unfortunately. So we just have to hope for the best there. But most people, normal people, cannot do that. They cannot move somewhere where there's no war because most people have to stay where they are. So we're going to have a lot of suffering. And what I always say is that it's friends and family that is the most important thing in these situations. It's not to have a lot of money. It's not to have military power, whatever. It's just you come back to the kernel of society, which is family and friends. Sadly, in the Western world today, family has disappeared as the kernel of society, and that's why socially times are very bad. And then there are very few values today. Very few people in the West, in most countries, eat dinner together, for example. They don't sit around the table even. They sit individually in front of the television and either play with their iPads or watch television or iPhones. So it's an interesting world, and of course, it's fascinating to study it from the point of view of history and what's going to happen next. But socially, as I said, there will be a lot of suffering in the coming years. So I feel sorry for the world, but it's always happened. It's nothing new. It always happened in history. It's going to happen again, and the world survives. If we don't have a nuclear war, that's the end of the world. So then we don't have to worry anyway. But if the world continues in some form, we're still going to be around. Are we going to live after the next crisis? Now there will be major changes in migration, for example. That will be that, and always been in history, migration. We're seeing it into the US on a massive scale. We're seeing it into Europe on a massive scale, and I think that will increase also massively. So that's going to lead to problems. And we're seeing it, for example, in the UK today. Between, there are problems in certain cities between the right extremists. I've said that for years. New Nazi parties will arise, and there'll be fights between them and the immigrants, and who will be blamed for everything. In the past, when we had migration, every migrant looked after himself, had to find a job, earn money, and create his own life. Now, the Western world is taking on a lot more migrants than they can cope with, and the consequence of that is that you get, well, on the one hand, a lot of people who have no money. On the other hand, people who have no jobs and no proper place to live. And then massive social security payments anyway for governments, and that is leading itself to massive financial problems for America, for Europe, etc. So that's another problem that the world hasn't had before, because the world has never subsidized migrants more than very, very short term. But that's what's happening now on a big scale, and there's a political side to that too. But so yes, there are problems, but the world has, as I said, always gone through these ordeals before, and I'm sure we will do this time too. But in the meantime, a lot of people, and that is everybody, whether you have money or not, a lot of us will suffer. That's part of history too.
Are you in the market for gold and silver? Then if so, please consider Miles Franklin. They are my gold and silver dealer of choice. So not only do they have super competitive prices that you're going to have a really hard time finding elsewhere, but then they also have top-notch customer support. I know Andy Schechtman, the owner of Miles Franklin, top-notch guy. I wouldn't be recommending them to you if I didn't have faith in their product mode. What you really want to do, however, you want to email them at info@milesfranklin.com, and you want to say that Capital Cosm sent me in the description line, because when you do that, you can get access to their special pricing sheet. You want to get that special pricing sheet because you're going to get special prices that you won't find on the website itself. So email them at info@milesfranklin.com. Tell them that Capital Cosm sent you, and you won't be heckled with spam emails, etc. There's no commitment necessary. I promise you that. And with that said, I will let you get back to the video. Yeah, Is there any country or anywhere in the world that people could flee to? Like a neutral ground, or is it completely unpredictable? I'm often reminded of the story of the guy who tried to escape World War II, and he went to Guadalcanal, and that became a hot zone of war itself. So, is there anything geographically speaking that someone could flee to? Because you're really left with three options. It's either stay and fight with your voice and your influence, or flee, or just ignore the entire thing and just try to make money and sustain your family, etc. So what do you see? What do you see
Well,
in
there
terms?
is, as yes, there is obviously a small elite that's trying to escape. A few years ago, a lot of U.S. hedge fund managers were building bunkers in New Zealand, for example.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe maybe in the next war, China invades New Zealand, for example. So and Australia for that matter. Sod's law, it didn't work, and of course there are. If you want to avoid a nuclear war, uh, or have a better chance of avoiding it, you're probably better off in South America somewhere, or in Patagonia, or in the South America. That's less likely to be bombed by nuclear bombs than, for example, Europe or the US. But how many people can do that? It's a very, very small minority. People haven't got the money. Normal people are not going to leave their families and their jobs, etc. And as you say, go down and sit in some godforsaken place and just wait for the war. And in the meantime suffer, and it might come or it might not come. So I think you can tell a few people, if you probably have a better chance if you go to South America. But what are you going to do there? And in the meantime, I have a family, children, grandchildren, etc. in Europe. I wouldn't. No, they're not going to leave. They don't. They're going to continue their lives here. So I wouldn't leave them either. Then why should I? I'll fight in the trenches, not literally, but I'll be there with them, and that's, I think, the most important thing. Look after your family, and then you have to just do the best you can of the situation. Have some savings, have a little bit of, as I said, a few silver coins or a few gold coins, etc. It probably stand you in good stead when there are shortages everywhere.
Yeah.
That's the level you can prepare on, but not by everybody fleeing to one country somewhere. It's not practical. Sadly, it doesn't work.
Yeah, yeah. Let's go ahead and shift back to the precious metals for a bit. I didn't get your take on silver, though. Gold has been bought by central banks on the eastern hemisphere for quite a while now, if you trace it back all the way, I think, to early 2010s. But what about silver? Historically speaking, we've had gold standards before, but here in the United States, we actually did have a silver standard at some point. Do you think silver will play any role in a monetary reset? Maybe not in the same capacity as gold, but do you think it'll have some sort of impact?
Well, as you say, silver has throughout history been real money. Also, it hasn't always been gold. It's been, in Rome, for example, you had the denarius, and of course, but the money printing that took place in the Roman Empire or in Rome wasn't to just issue more silver denarius. It was actually that silver denarius up until about 170 AD. It had basically 100% silver content, and by 280 to 90 AD, it had zero silver content for a while. So that's how they devalued money in those days. But silver, first of all, when you said a reset, I don't think there will be an organized reset. I don't believe in any reset. It's not going to work, because they might try it, But the US might try it. But who's going to listen to the US? It's a bankrupt nation. No one's going to follow whatever the US. People are going to say, "Show us your gold." We revalue our dollar now based on our gold holdings of 8,000 tons. How do you show us the gold? Have you got the 8,000 tons? Hasn't been a physical audit of the U.S. gold since Eisenhower's days. So we don't know if the U.S. has gold. More likely that China will have its gold because it continues to buy, and China keeps its own production. The government keeps that, which is about 300 something tons a year, and they import a lot. Same with Russia. They're more likely to have gold than the U.S. I don't think there'll be a reset of some kind. But coming back to silver, we from the beginning we told people gold is a king of the metals. That is a real wealth preservation metal, and that's what you should hold now. And because silver is not for widows and orphans, and it's incredibly volatile. And it's wonderful when it goes up because it goes up twice as fast as gold, at least. But when it corrects, it goes down also twice as fast or even more. And therefore, it's not for normal people. But having said that, so our clients maybe have had no silver, or maybe maximum, we told them not more than 20%. But now that's been right. The way silver went from a few dollars in 1980 or 1971 up to $20, and then down to $8 again, and then up to 50, and then down again to low teens, and so incredible volatility. Now I think the gold silver ratio is now 80, 85, and I think now silver is very undervalued, and we have a massive shortage of silver also there. You remember that all the gold that's ever been produced in history still exists today in one form or another, whilst most of the silver that has been produced has been consumed. And therefore there are no major silver stocks anywhere. And now the industrial use of silver has increased dramatically, and will continue to increase. I mean, in all electrical products there is silver, and of course now we have also the massive demand for solar panels, which is going to explode. So there will be big demand for silver, and therefore the price is going to go up again by multiples of silver, regardless of gold. So yes, I see, as I said, from our point of view, we don't think it's wealth preservation to the same extent, but if you have 80% gold and 20% silver, or 75 gold and 25 silver, in order to avoid that volatility I'm talking about, so then I think it's a good investment, because if let's take an example. It's not a forecast. It's not a target. Let's say gold goes to 10,000. And again, what does 10,000 mean? In what currency? What value of the dollar are you measuring it in? So I'm just talking about relativity here now. So if gold goes to $10,000, and silver, let's say, returns to its historical average of 15, the gold silver ratio being 15, gold divided by silver is 15. Then 10,000 divided by 15 comes to $666 for an ounce of silver, as an example. So, and I think that those kind of revaluations of silver we could easily see. But as I said, be careful with the volatility. But otherwise, yes, gold, silver today is a unique investment, and definitely an opportunity. But as I said, don't go too high on it, don't leverage, and keep it outside the banking system, because within the banking system you might never get delivery of it.
Yeah. Well, Egon, thank you so much for coming on. I asked this question to all my guests, so I'm going to open this floor to you. I'd like for you to ask a question to my next guest. But before you do that, I have a question from my previous guest to you. My previous guest was Andy Schechtman, and he wants to know,
what is your your biggest concern about where we are? Is it financial? Is it social? Is it moral? Spiritual?
given the state of the world?
Well, I've already told you what I expect to happen. I've learned to live with risk. I mean, I see horrendous things happening to the world, and therefore to people, and therefore to the economic situation of the world, and therefore people's lives. I see a lot of suffering, etc. But I'm a fatalist. I believe in you do what you can to protect yourself. Save a bit of money, save a little bit in gold and silver if you want to. You can buy a little bit of food to have it in reserve, long life food, and then you live your life. You enjoy people, you enjoy nature, enjoy music, you enjoy family. That's what life is all about. Well, we're going to have problems all the time. Sometimes life has been too easy now. We'll have tougher times. But at the end of the day, life is it's all about people. And therefore, stick with your friends and with your family and look after each other. And I think that's the most important thing. I'm not going worry. I made my analysis of the world. It might be totally wrong. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to make any difference to me if I'm wrong. I'm worrying about the risk that might never happen. In my view, it's guaranteed that it will happen. It's only the timing which is not guaranteed. Because you don't know. Things take longer, especially if it's an end of an empire or an era. It takes longer. So there's nothing I worry about because I see all the risks. I know that's likely to happen. So it's I don't worry about it. It might sound a bit nonchalant, but it's a fact that I have spent all my life analyzing risk and analyzing the situation. And I don't think I can change the direction of the world, sadly. So therefore, I can only help a small group of people or investors, etc., and including friends and family. I think the important thing is now to help others. To what extent you can help others, whether it's friends or family or financially or morally, etc. That's what it's all about now in the next few years, helping others. And so there's nothing. I told you all the things I worry about. I worry about, of course, I can see all the risks everywhere, and they're likely to happen. But it's not. Why should I worry about it? I said I only worry about the things I can do something about. I've taken the precautions and the protection I can within my limited ability, and then I'm not going to worry anymore. And then I'll deal with the situation as it comes. And as I said, happiness in life is helping others, making other people happy, not making yourself happy. That's what happens. So that's what we're going to do in the next few years, help others. And that's going to make yourself feel a lot happier. So I know I'm not answering the question you
You're
would
good.
like to hear it, but that's the way I see it very clearly.
No, yeah. I mean, totally. There's a million different data points you can analyze, but at the end of the day, you could also get analysis paralysis, where you just become like a deer in the headlights and you just don't know how to act. There's just so many things to prepare for. So at the end of the day, you prepare for what you can, and don't fret too much on the things that you cannot have any control over. Focus on what you can control,
exactly.
And whatever happens, just face your fate. I mean, that's all there is to
it.
Yeah. So what's the question you'd like to ask my next guest?
The question I would like to ask him is, think about now, if you believe that the world could have problems like I do, have you planned for your family? Have you planned how you help other people and in order to go through the next crisis? Or if you haven't, think about it, because that's more important than anything else. That circle of friends and family around you, that in my view, most important thing. Sure, if somebody has 100% into the stock market or into derivatives or highly leveraged situations, God save them, because he's not going to change his mind because I tell him to think about that. So therefore, but he could think about, if I am right, or if he sees the risk the way that I see it, or even part of that risk, if he sees it or she, think about helping other people, helping the group around you. That's and prepare for that. So that's so my question would be: have you prepared for that? If not, please do.
Good question. My next question to you, I've also been asking this to each of my guests, and it's I'd like to. Is there any book that you'd like to recommend the audience look into to become a better investor, or just like anything that you find interesting that you think would be worthwhile for the audience to read?
There's so many books on investments, so I wouldn't. You could read the richest man in Babylon. You could read, for example. It's a classic. It's well over 100 years old. It's just advice how you manage your money. The old sound advice. All the investment books in the world is not going to help anyone if they don't. If they don't understand risk. There are enough articles on the internet and enough of us writing about risk. Either you believe it or not, and if you believe it, you've taken action already. And if you haven't, as I said, you will be in trouble in the next few years. So I think, therefore, there is not a single book that I would recommend yet to people. I've forgotten his name now. The German psychiatrist who was in concentration camp. Man's Search for Meaning. That's a very interesting philosophical book. And Man's Search for Meaning. I will. I could email you the name of the author. It just escaped me. But those are more deep things about human beings, interaction, helping others. Follow your passion, which I think is very important for anyone. Do what makes you happy and what makes other people happy. Those are the kind of books I would be more interested in than what to buy tomorrow. People don't understand life. It's no use understanding investment, and therefore it's better to understand yourself first. So that's my recommendation.
Fantastic. Well, Egon, thank you so much for coming on. I deeply appreciate your time. Go ahead and tell us where we can find you. And if there's anything else you want to mention that we haven't talked about yet, feel free to do so as well.
Thank you. Yeah, so as I explained before, we are experts in wealth preservation, understanding risk, and we found that precious metals, especially gold and to some extent silver, is the best way to protect against the risks within the system that we see in coming years. And remember, gold is the only money that has ever survived in history. Every single currency has gone to zero without exception throughout history. And gold has maintained purchasing power for thousands of years. So it's got a good history behind it. Whatever happens to Bitcoin, I don't know. To me, it's not wealth preservation. It's a fantastic investment for some people who bought it right. And for me, it's a binary risk. You can go to zero or you can go to $1 million. It's not a good risk. But whilst the gold is really the best form of wealth preservation, as I said, it's nature's money. It's going to be around for a long time. And so we help people to buy, store, or ship their own gold to our vaults in Zurich or in the Swiss Alps or in Singapore. But it's stored in their own name and they hold it directly themselves. And we are just facilitator, not a counterparty risk. So we are expert based in Switzerland in Zurich, and people can reach us on. We used to be called Matterhorn Asset Management, but we changed the name because just to show that we're a long-term business and we have. There's also family in the business and very good partners in the business, and we're going to go on for a long time, long after my existence, hopefully. And so It's either the website is vongreyers.com. No, sorry, vongreyers.gold. And .com works also, but .gold, vongreyers.gold. But to make it simple, you just put VG, V for Victor, or Von.
We'll have a link down below.
VG,
we'll have all the website links down in the description.
Gold, Gold Switzerland, which is our previous URL, works also goldswitzerland.com. And that's where people can find our website. We give a very, very personal service and hand holding for people who want to discuss things with us or on board or whatever. And as I said, it's a passion for us. So please contact us, even if you only have questions, and we're pleased to help investors.
Fantastic. Well, guys, those links will be down below, so be sure to check them out if you're interested. And if you enjoyed this video, comment down below. Go Egon, go. Go Egon, go. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and I will catch you in the next episode. Bye, y'all.